led today by the announcement, both from Phillip Rivers and the LA Chargers, that they're going to part ways after 16 seasons. All right, look, there's a bunch of things, a bunch of other ramifications to get to. Let's just say this, by my estimation, Phillip Rivers is, without any question, a first-ballot Hall of Famer. And he was part of one of the great trades in the history of the sport. I know that the Giants won 2 Super Bowls, and the Chargers haven't appeared in one. But if you get a starting quarterback for 14 years who doesn't miss a game, and you make the playoffs more times than you miss them, and he sets records, and he has no off-the-field issues, like the worst thing you could possibly say is, damn, he's got a lot of kids. You won that trade considering it wasn't a one-for-one. There are other pieces to that trade, including LaDainian Tomlinson, Nate Kading, their former kicker. In a bad year for Phillip Rivers, he threw for 4,615 yards and 23 touchdowns. The problem was the interceptions. He replaced Drew Brees and literally never missed a game. Tore his ACL in Indy in a road win in the playoffs and played with it in New England in the AFC Championship game. For 11 of the last 12 years, he threw for over 4,000 yards. Let me repeat that. For 11 of the last 12 years, he threw for over 4,000 yards. He is, by my estimation, the modern-day Dan Marino, not just because he didn't win a Super Bowl and because he'll be great on TV. He'd be great on TV. Great, not good, great. But because of his quick release and lack of mobility, which for the most part didn't hinder his ability to do what he did. But this is the quarterback shuffle. And if you listen to Indy, when they were asked whether or not they wanted to commit to Jacoby Brissett, they said, Tampa hasn't committed to their quarterback, to Jameis Winston. Why? Because they know what's out there. And while he lives in Florida, he wants to get close to his home of Alabama. Those are 2 possible destinations. I have said this, and I mean this. The most likely destination is Indy, okay, for 3 main reasons. The first is the reason I don't think Brady ultimately leaves New England or is likely to leave New England, even if he's now going to be a free agent and it's been blessed, is you got to go work with somebody you've never worked with before. Maybe he goes to Tennessee, but I just don't see Tom Brady in Tennessee. The thing is this. In Indy, the head coach, Frank Reich, is not only a former quarterback, he's his former offense coordinator, quarterback coach. All about relationships. Secondly, you're playing indoors. And people want to talk about playing in warm weather, that helping your football. Nothing helps elongate your career as a kicker or as a quarterback more than playing in a dome. Maybe playing in altitude in Denver, which is what Peyton Manning tried to do. But Peyton Manning always had issues with arm strength, issues with the spiral, but a lot of it was hidden because they played in a dome where there's ideal conditions. The last thing is, and this is kind of an ancillary thing, they got a really good offensive line in Indy. And you're going to need one because he cannot move. I don't know if definitively it makes Indy better. I really don't. But he doesn't carry the burden that Brady does of not wanting to go to a place that Peyton Manning used to occupy, right? That Brady can't do that, Phillip Rivers could. What I find fascinating about Rivers and the possibility of him moving to Tampa to play, or to Indy to play, or to Tennessee to play, or wherever, is 2 different things. One, it's going to start the quarterback shuffle because out there is Brady. Out there is Bridgewater. Out there, obviously, is Rivers. We mentioned him. Out there is Marcus Mariota, who's going to cost you a fraction of the money, hasn't had nearly the success, but is much younger, and everyone thinks, a lot of people think, you can fix him. Right? There's Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's a bunch of other quarterbacks that have started and have success. This is a free agent year. And this brings up the other interesting part, is the actual shuffle part. who's going to pick which seat they want to sit in, because that'll eliminate the number of opportunities. Tampa needs one. Tennessee needs one. Indy needs one. Miami needs one. The Chargers need one. The Patriots need one. Right? These are all the possible destinations that we have discussed. Denver thinks they have their guy. We'll see about Oakland, whether or not they need one. Rivers doesn't seem to fit with Las Vegas, but it's not crazy to think he'd want to play for Gruden. Gruden's always raved about Rivers. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Doesn't seem to fit with Vegas culture. And everything you heard about Phillip Rivers is, in fact, true. He didn't want to move to L.A. He didn't want to make that drive. He didn't want to uproot his family. He wants them to be in one spot. Now he's picked a spot. Does that mean that he wants to be in Tampa, which is the closest team to where he lives? But I think the most fascinating part is the twofold. One, does he go play for somebody that he knows? And the only possibility of that is in Indy. It's not that an old dog can't learn new tricks, but you're talking about learning a new language. That's what this is. In sports, every system has a language. You can still make it work. You can survive, but you can't be you. Right? When you're speaking a language that you kind of know, you can't be you because there's subtle nuances to it. That's why Phillip Rivers almost has to go to Indy. It doesn't mean that Bruce Arians doesn't know offensive football and wouldn't appreciate him. It doesn't mean that John Gruden wouldn't know offensive football and appreciate him, but you're going to teach each other a different language and have you try and speak fluently on an NFL football field in a couple of months? I don't think so. I'm more into the Brady thing. Like, this now opens up a team for Brady. And Michael Irvin said this last week. Colin Cowherd said it today. What about Tom Brady to the Dallas Cowboys? The biggest brand as far as quarterback in the NFL, with the biggest brand as far as teams in the NFL. Brady is synonymous with winning, and all the Cowboys want to do is win. I don't believe ultimately it makes a ton of sense. On the other hand, one of the things you do when you fire a coach or when you leave a relationship, when you make a change, is what? The opposite. Right? The opposite. You generally hire the exact opposite of a coach that you had previous. If you had a super experienced older guy, you get a young up-and-comer with no experience. You get a defensive guy, he fails, the next guy is an offensive guy, and vice versa. For Tom Brady, if he leaves an organization that's all about the team, saving money, being smart, owner stays away from the football side, football guy runs the team in kind of a cloak of silence, and he likes to get rid of guys a year too early rather than a year too late. Who is Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones is an owner who, not any different than Robert Kraft, is out in front of things. He's a huge owner in the league where we don't know half of these guys. But Jerry does like to play football god. Jerry did actually play football, has a high football IQ, and is willing to spend whatever on whatever in order to make something happen. Right? Money has never been an issue. And he has always had the back of his players, as opposed to the Patriots, who, even though Robert Kraft has his back, nobody else seemingly does. In Dallas, the coach is like the 10th most important guy in the locker room. In New England, it's number one, it's all 10 important guys in the locker room. I don't think it would make a ton of sense on a day-to-day basis when he has to teach Kellen Moore and work with him on what he likes and what he likes to call. I think there's a lot. But they didn't have a good offensive line in New England this year. In Dallas, they do. They didn't have a lead dog running back in Dallas. They do. They have an owner who's willing to spend whatever on anything. And even though the offensive staff is still around from last year, the truth is they need to succeed if they want to keep their job with the new boss as head coach. This would be the opposite, the complete opposite of what he had in New England. And oftentimes when people leave a relationship or leave or fire a coach or fire an agent or whatever. The next guy is the opposite. Hey, what up? Doug Gottlieb here. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Fox Sports Radio. You can catch my show, all the shows on Fox Sports Radio, unique interviews, strong takes, just interesting discussion on the sports topic of the day, of the week, of the month. It's all encompassing. It's everything you need right here on YouTube. Subscribe.